Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scorese, co-founder and co-host of the Creative BRRR Strategies podcast and house here live on Clubhouse every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, providing education, networking, and strategy. Today, we're going to have another great subject, which I really want to dive into today, is build-to-rent construction strategies. But what we'll first do is obviously, get a little updated on the market and things of that nature. We get rocking and rolling here in just a few minutes. As always, I want to thank our listeners every Sunday, and then the ones that following up after the podcast as well. I want to thank also Mr. Yarrow Perkins of Perkatech, who provides all our social media back office to the podcast itself, the uploading, the website maintenance, all of it. It's just an amazing feat that he does, and he does it for so many other real estate professionals. I would highly suggest and recommend having a call with him and see how he can help you in your social media needs going into 26. So I'm just inviting a bunch of people in, and if you want to also invite some people into the podcast itself here on Clubhouse, we'll get started here in just a few minutes. All right, so give me 1 second here. We'll get that. Bang. All right, all right, all right. Okay, so let's get started with just what's happened over the last couple weeks. We just had a great podcast at my office yesterday with Bob Warburne, who is the head of the Delaware RIA, and we talked about the Delaware real estate market for about a good hour. We had a nice small live audience of about 20 people. A lot of interaction, but that'll be released sometime later tonight into tomorrow, talking about the market itself, where it's going from the real estate investor perspective. I thought it was a really good discussion that we had, and that was a lot of fun. Like we're very consistent with our events. Second Monday and second Saturday, always in Philadelphia at our office down at TCS. Second and Chestnut, right up in the rooftop deck. Second Wednesday, we're always in Lehigh Valley, up at the Fegley's Bethlehem Brew Works. Second Thursday, we're in Harrisburg at the Red Lion Hotel. And then the third Thursday is up in North Jersey, up in the Newark, New Jersey market, down at the City Rub Smokehouse. And then we'll have the white label course every third Saturday of the month. So this month we're in New York City. Next month, we just scheduled South Jersey. In March, we're in North Jersey, and then in April, we're in Lehigh Valley, and then we're going to come back to Philadelphia in May. So we're pretty booked out with those courses, and that's getting a lot of great feedback. We're averaging about 20, 25 people in each of the classes, and it's not just about learning how to broker loans; it's also learning how to underwrite, be a better investor, be a better real estate agent, be investor friendly, having that component for yourself, and understanding how the referral program works, as well as a real estate professional. So it's really it's taken off quite well. It's a 9 to 3 class. We are opening it up to other markets, of course. So if it's something that you think you would like to collaborate on in your market, we can more than welcome to bring that to you as well. And I know in most states, it's a 2 or 3 credit CE accreditation for real estate agents as well. So again, more than welcome to align and collaborate with you on upcoming event of the white label course. So let's update on the market a little bit. The rates did plummet a little bit to almost a 3-year low. It got as low as 5.99 on the conventional side, kind of leveled off a little bit, about 6.06. We're translating that on the 30-year for the home buyer, translating it back to the commercial investor. Rates are somewhere around 6.25, 6.5 on 30-year fixed money, up to 80% loan to value, refinance or purchase. On the purchase side, we're seeing a little more aggressiveness on the DSCR. We're going up to about 85% loan to value. So we're starting to see a little more aggressive acquisition money on the purchase side on 30-year fixed or a 10-year interest only. So we'll see how that rolls out into 26. Construction money is getting very inexpensive. we're looking at in the eights right now. If you've done at least three plus deals of rehabs or flips in the last 3 years that we can verify, you're probably getting up to 94% on purchase, 100% construction. You're around in the 8.99 range to 9.99 range. You're hovering around 70% loan to value on the after repair value as well. So that's where we're going into 26. I'm seeing a lot of um, aggressive BRRRR strategists coming onto the front line as well with that. I'm just trying to see if anything else caught my eye here. Consumer sentiment is improving with modest improvement to the economy, especially in the gas tank. You're seeing that significantly. Um, but I'm still seeing days on the market on real estate staying very heavy in certain markets. The condo market is just, nosediving a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how that lands. Hopefully, we'll have a medium landing, but hey, keep an eye on that as well. But definitely, when the condo market is starting to slump, that is an indicator to a reset toward the whole the whole real estate holdings. Um, some risky counties that have been identified going into first quarter. Bunch of them are in California. Nothing surprising there. Florida, couple in Jersey, Atlantic and Cumberland County. I'm not surprised about there, but most of it's in California, Florida, and or New Jersey. There's one in Louisiana. I'm not really familiar with that market as much as I should be, but most of it was California, riskier markets right now. NAR gave us a hot spot. Markets poised for the new buyer opportunities. Might also translate into the investor space. Charleston, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, Indiana, Jacksonville, Florida, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, Raleigh, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Spokane, Washington. I think I'm a little concerned about obviously Minneapolis. I'm a little concerned about Charlotte, but I think most of these other markets are I would 100% agree with on these on hotspots to look at. And one other article. Okay, so here, this is some top rural markets you want to keep an eye out for. Jackson, Michigan, West Memphis, Arkansas, Topeka, Kansas, St. Joseph, Michigan, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Morgantown, West Virginia, Newton, Iowa, and Maiden, Illinois are markets to watch in the rural market section there. So that's some articles there to catch us up with. So let's talk about build to rent new construction, and we'll obviously open it up to our moderators. I think the outlook for new construction is still good, especially in the BTR space. What is build to rent and why does it matter? Build to rent refers to housing built specifically for long-term rental, not for sale. It spans single-family rental communities and or multifamily rental complexes. This is a key driver, growth driver, due to home ownership affordability challenges. It also offers a suburban lifestyle and a professional management without the mortgage for the renter. And institutional capital is flowing into the purpose build rental platforms. I have a lot of money to put to work in new construction right now. It's a matter of identifying one, the right borrower. We'll talk about that in this overview, but also identifying the right deal to make sense. Some market dynamics, with in 26 supply, demand, and rent trends. New rental construction has expanded. BTR making up meaningful portion of the new units. Overall, housing starts remain subdued due to financing costs, labor, and material headwinds, but contrasting with middling BTR growth. So rent growth and occupancy is very strong, especially in the Sunbelt markets. The occupancy is very high in a good way. A lot of analysts are forecasting a rent stabilization and eventual reacceleration as supply pressures balance with 2027 looking a little stronger. So the Sun Belt is definitely an area to look at, Midwest, and also Northeast markets where we're showing, fundamentals of new construction where people just don't want to, they just want to rent right now. They want to watch the market. And there's big capital players in this new construction space. Okay. A lot of people, you don't have to be the Lennars of the world and the Hovanians of the world to get into new construction. there's a lot of money in there. So if you can identify the right general contractor that has a resume of completed projects in the last 3 years, that's going to be a huge advantage for you to scale out of the BRRR or the flip into a whole different dynamic of rental capacity. And it's a whole different tenant as well. So like it could be a single family, right? Or it could be a multifamily where, maybe you're building out 4 townhomes at a time, 3 townhomes at a time. These are huge, huge opportunities, especially with can't make more land, as Will Rogers once told us. Um, and the tenant expectations, they like those amenities that come with the new construction, the technology-driven leasing management and the flexible lease structures. These are definitely increasingly expected by renters, right? And as market cycles are getting a little more hectic, many markets in the new construction space have stayed balanced and a slight oversupply where build to rent is now a little more appealing than build to sell. So focus on markets with real demand fundamentals, job growth, diversified economies, affordability. Consider mixed BTR portfolios like a single family and or like a 2 through 4 family to hedge submarket risk. Partner also with experienced operators, operational efficiency driving NOI and investor returns, and use the phased capital deployment. Avoid overexposure in overbuilt markets. So like right now, Philly, I feel like is overbuilt. I think there's too much building going on right now with not enough appeal to bring people back into the city. So again, direct build portfolios in growth markets, even maybe do a slight syndication on a new construction where you don't have all your eggs in one basket of your own. I think BTR in 2026 is no longer a niche. It's a mainstream growth strategy from purpose-built communities to hybrid SFR or multifamily. I think the landscape is maturing with capital allocation continuing despite headwinds. So I think there's a lot of people. I get more calls about new construction almost every single week, but it's about putting the deal together. Like, what is your scope of work? Are there your permits in place? Is your zoning in place? Do you have architectural designs? That's a big, big question. I mean, like if you don't even have architectural designs, how do you know what your general construction scope of work is to build a house? Like you can't have the chicken without the egg or the egg without the chicken. You need both, right? So you really have to think about this and do some serious work on, some due diligence. And real quick before we go to our moderators, I want to talk about your power team. You need your land and deal origination team, your land brokers, your local agents who understand zoning and overlays, wholesalers and municipal relationships, city and planning zoning consultants. If you're going to build in a market, have you gone to a zoning meeting in that market? And then you got to identify who is your architect and your civil engineer, right? They're not just designers; they cost control, right? They're the ones that are rent. They're going to understand the rent-driven design, and civil engineers optimize density and utilities. So you really need to think about this when you're going into new construction. And then obviously your GC is your biggest risk or your biggest asset. Definitely understand what their track record was in the last 3 years. And you got to also understand the capital stacking of lending. So, I have a software where you could actually run your numbers to see what your exposure is based on no experience, some experience, or a lot of experience in new construction and what that leverage looks like and what your exposure is going to be. You need to understand the exit-driven underwriting before you even you throw a shovel into the dirt. And then also you need to understand entitlements, legal and municipal scenarios. Land use attorneys you need to be chatting with, permit expediters, local political consultants, environmental and traffic consultants. Then you got to talk to property management on the way out. Design for rent, not resale. So rent modeling by unit type. What are they looking for? What is a property management able to rent right away or rent up before it's even finished for that matter? And then talking to your insurance and your task and risk advisors. like where's the tax benefits? What's the insurance? What does the builder's risk look like, or an umbrella coverage look like when you're building 3 townhomes out or 4 townhomes out? You need to understand it, and you most likely would need to talk to and have a discussion with a cost segregation specialist on the way out as well. And who's your exit strategy team? Like, who's going to be able to do a portfolio refinance on these properties? Are you going to want to blanket them? Are you going to want to do them individually? You need to understand the in as well as the out of the deal. Again, it's no build to rent is no longer a construction play. It's capital markets business disguised as real estate. Your power team determines how fast you scale, how clean you exit, how resilient you are in the market shifts. Good morning, Mr. David Bergio. Welcome. Brief overview of who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning. Build to rent construction strategies.
Good morning. Hope everybody's doing well today. Don't mind me. I'm out on a nice little hike on this nice little brisk Sunday morning out southeastern Pennsylvania. Guys, I'm Dave Bergio. I'm one of the owners and founders of Trifecta Credit Solutions here in Allentown, Pennsylvania, where we help people, businesses, real estate investors go from credit to capital. All things on the personal and business side. And Joe, you did something very interesting with build to rent. It seems to me that's been a topic of coming up recently. People reaching out or our conversations going, hey, what about new construction? New construction. I need a new construction loan. How does that work? So ironically, you speaking about that today, pretty interesting. You must have been hearing the thoughts in my head, but I think something else, and guys are just throwing this stuff out there, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, just things seeing. I mean, I live in Easton, and I think you're starting to see that here to where people are moving in. There's new construction on big rental complexes, but the problem is people are getting priced out that have lived here for 30, 40, 50 years that want to stay in rentals, that used to live in downtown pretty much their whole life, and now to live downtown here, it costs you $2,500 a month, some even $3,000 a month in some of these properties because of our proximity to New York. The talks that the trains may come back, go through New Jersey Transit to New York. There's a lot of people that still live here and commute to New York every day for work, which I think is absolutely insane, but that's a different topic. But, it's bringing up the conversation, even politically, with council members here and mayors here. Hey, what about affordable housing? We need more stuff built. We need different places for people to go, and you're starting to see that in different sectors here with the work that they're doing and some of these renovations in the West Ward, but building more affordable housing or coming up to that point in Southside. I think Southside's going to be kind of what it once was to where my father-in-law grew up many, many years ago. And, I think, Joe, you're spot on with that. You're starting to see that as there's growth in people moving in some of these areas to where the people that have been here need somewhere to go.
Yeah, I like where Easton's going with their downtown development. I just don't know how it's going to impact affordable housing, where Easton was very appealing. Is a great example. Easton's a great example, like for every small city in the country, where affordable housing and Section 8 was a common thread in the rental capacity in that market. And now it's changing where you got Class B rentals butted up against Section 8 housing, almost literally next to each other. So it'll be interesting to see how the southeastern corridor off of 78 transforms as well. I mean, there's not a lot of land there to develop, but there's a lot of older properties that they can knock down and restart. But again, is this town going to, the city, I shouldn't even call it a town, it's a city, but is the city going to step in and say, X amount of these units have to be for affordable housing, and we'll give you a tax credit for X amount over X amount of time to justify that? Otherwise, why would a developer build anything if they're not getting credit toward stabilizing it in an affordable housing environment? So the cities have to step up with tax credits back to the developers for them to benefit by allowing a certain percentage of affordable housing, or it doesn't weigh out to be cost benefit for them to build out and lose money on the deal. It doesn't make any sense. That's that's the issue we have in Philadelphia and some other markets. We used to have a 10-year tax abatement, and guess what? When they got rid of it, all the developers left. They're now in Reading, Harrisburg, they're down the shore, they're in Delaware. They're just moving out of the market because there's no benefit to allow this. So I'm just looking at some of the cities saying they're doing that, requiring ability to do. Yeah. So Cindy, to what you're saying down below, now the cities are stepping back in and saying, listen, you have to do a certain amount of affordable housing in this development, but we're going to give you X amount of tax credit or 10-year, 20-year. Now, word has it, Philadelphia's going to bring back a 20-year tax abatement, but there's been such a flooding of apartment build outs in a lot of these markets. I don't know if it's going to balance overnight. So it'll be very interesting to because they were all these smaller cities were drawing so many people back into the market for arts and theater and restaurants and jobs. And then COVID just blew that whole concept up. And everybody wanted to get the hell out of Dodge and went back into the suburban settings or even rural markets. I mean, rural markets are we're pushing we're pushing the boundaries in rural right now. We're really pushing the boundaries. And non-QM lending, which is where I sit, we want to get heavily into the new construction space. The problem is identifying the investor that understands how to put the deal together. Meaning, the question is, how many new construction projects have you completed with ownership in the last 3 years? If it's zero, you need to identify the GC to tie back in and make sure their experience is completely vetted. Because if it's not, it's going to blow back in your face. And how do you vet a general contractor nowadays, right? For specifically for ground up spec, build to rent projects, right? There's some underwriting standards that any non-QM lender or any bank is going to want to see, a small bank or a credit union. They want to see the license, they want to see the insurance, they want to see that the compliance, non-negotiable, right? You want to see an active and state local contractor license. You want a general liability of 1 million plus, which is typical. You want to see workers' comp, even if the subs carry their own, bonding capacity if it's required by municipality or lender, and familiarity with the local zoning inspections and certificates of occupancy, right? Again, it goes back to, have you gone to a zoning meeting to see who is getting approved for new construction on build to rent or spec development? How are they getting approved? Like, who are they using? Who's the lawyer they're using? Who's the civil engineer they're using? Who's the architect? Who's the GC behind it? You also want the GC to show a proven new construction track record, not just renovations. I would say 3 to 5 completed new build projects similar in size and scope, experience with spec homes, small subdivisions, or build to rent, ability to read and build from architectural and engineering sets, an understanding of critical path scheduling. Financial strength and cash flow discipline would be extremely important. New construction is a cash intensive. Can they float labor and material costs between draws? Clean payment history with subs and suppliers. No mechanic liens in the last 24 to 36 months. Comfortable working with draw schedules and inspections. Lender reality, delays or lien threats equal frozen draws. Budgeting, accuracy, and change order control. Line item budget, understanding materials, labor, GC fees, and contingencies. Clear allowances, windows, cabinets, flooring, HVAC, or roofing. Understanding how to put a written change order policy in. Pricing and approvals before work. Big red flag, lump sum pricing with vague scope language, right? And then you have to understand timeline and scheduling and accountability. Written construction schedule with milestones, penalties or incentives tied to the delivery where feasible. Weekly or bi-weekly progress updates, photos and reports. Most new construction lenders, like myself, we are doing virtual appraisal, virtual AI inspections. So the pictures are going to be key to get your money right away. We're talking, you can get your money in 24 to 48 hours, but you got to know how to put it together. The investor truth is time overruns kill IRR more than modest cost overruns. And then subcontractor bench strength. Are subs in house or long term relationships? Are they licensed in insurance trades like electric, plumbing, and HVAC? Backup subs for labor shortages, very real in 2026. The ask is who actually shows up if your mainframer is booked? And then there's the lender and draw process experience. Your GC should understand and already know how to work with private lenders, non QM construction loans, third party draw inspectors, scope of work verification, partial release of lien procedures. A big bonus GCs who've built on construction to perm or DSCR takeouts. And then you gotta put together the contract structure. I just put an article out on my newsletter and LinkedIn on contracts with general contractors. So take a look for that. Understanding the detailed scope and specs attached, the draw schedule aligned with the lender, termination clauses for cause, warranty terms, 1 year workmanship minimum, handshake deals, or we'll figure it out language is not a good thing. You want to avoid that. Bottom line, capital in 26, capital is very selective, inspections are tighter, and timelines matter more than ever. Vet your GC like a business partner, not a vendor. The right contractor protects your downside, accelerates your upside, and keeps lenders confident. Felix, good morning. Welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion. Build to rent construction strategies.
Grand Rising, Joe. Grand Rising, everybody. Happy New Year again to everyone. Felix Buchanan Sr., Buchanan Biz Enterprises, the JLix Group, and team leader of the Keller Williams Legacy team in Baltimore. I want to start with like everything that you said and everything that Dave said is like spot on. However, the bigger challenge in some of this is the factor that a lot of these newer investors that don't have the experience and have the zero that needs to partner up with someone that does have the experience, you got to make sure that there's going to be a great benefit in that partnership because you'll get that these GCs want to take so much more because they're in that position to then say, hey, well, you don't have the experience and you need me. So that's kind of like a, catch-22 situation in certain circumstances. However, in reference to rent to construction, um, everything that you said, you gotta the biggest part now, especially going into 2026, is your deal has to be so tight and by the numbers and by everything that if you don't have a deal that is set up in that proper way where, hey, this is the GC, what's your experience? Like you said, hey, if this GC subs don't show up, do you have to make sure that that GC has subs to back that up so that your project don't get stalled? What's your team in making sure that your strategy is for exiting this property if in the event that everything that you did in the process of going forward as far as your realtors, as far as your title company, your lenders, being able to market the property properly so that you are able to get the buyers. This market is just going to be tough. If you don't have the proper strategies in every aspect of building your team, that's part of what I'm doing in the first quarter of this year, just making sure that my team is stronger, hiring more people that is going to allow things to not just be speed to lead, but also speed and efficiency, because you can move through fast and then now you're not as efficient in getting all these I's dotted and T's crossed from beginning to end in and as a part of this construction process. Then, you know, with rehabs being as tough as it already was, construction is a bit deeper and harder. Like you said, you got to get these land people out there. You got to get the surveys out there. All of those things that if you were just doing regular rehabs, it's going to take you some time to even get through that learning curve to even learn that. So it's very imperative that you do have the more experienced person in that process and part of that strategy because building to then rent and then maintain those rentals, because if you're building multi-units or if you're building one offers, you got to be able to do enough one single family homes that it makes sense that if you're doing a package of 3 to 5, that's when you're actually going to see a return on investment, because you could do one or two, and then like you said earlier, it doesn't make sense. Why would I then go spend this money to do affordable housing, and then I'm not benefiting from renting this out where it should be residual income until 2, 3 years down the line? So it's like, bottom line, your strategies and knowing your numbers, having your team. We speak about this almost every week, that the team aspect of that is very important. Your realtors, your lenders, your surveyors, you need to start building that, interviewing people, see what type of experience they got, because you don't want to get into that process and then you get somebody that's janky, or that they already did a bad job and you didn't know that. So now you're behind the gun because you've ciphered all this money to them and then they didn't get nowhere with the project. Now you owe this money and now you still don't have the project done. So that's my knowledge and wisdom for the day. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you, Felix. As always, you know, he tied in a couple things that make me think about what we're talking about here. Why haven't you gone to a zoning meeting to meet your power team? Like, they're all there. Your off-market deals are there too, by the way. Everybody's looking for off-market deals. I need off-market deals. Send me off-market deals. It's all over Facebook, right? Your off-market deals are when somebody F's up at a zoning meeting and they have to dump the property or they don't get approved for something, right? That's your off-market deals. The attorney that represented somebody that lost in something that they wanted to get approved, right? Or somebody got something approved. Now you know about some insight to a market where you could identify some other properties neighboring that area. Like, what the hell are you doing? Guess how much it costs to go to a zoning meeting? Nothing. Just your time and your gas in your tank. That's the best networking event. If you think you're going to be an expert of any market anywhere, go to a zoning meeting in that specific neighborhood or that community. You're going to find out more information in that one night from 6 to 8 than you'll ever find out about that market. There's no way you'll know a market better than that. I don't care how many real estate investor meetings you'll go to in any given market. If you don't go to the zoning meeting, you don't know crap. That's just a personal opinion. You know what opinions are like. But I digress back to our discussion here. And I want to tie this into, I want to make sure that everybody understands the opportunity of build to rent also falls into modular new construction versus general new construction. So like a clear investor focused breakdown of modular new construction versus traditional stick build general new construction framed for build to rent and portfolio scaling and lending realities in 26. So what is it? So homes that are built in a climate control factory, which are modular, builds transported in sections and assembled on a permanent foundation. Some of the pros there: speed to completion, predictable pricing, weatherproof build, code compliant, strong BTR appeal, right? Some of the cons: design limitations, transportation and logistic costs, zoning friction, and lender education required. So not all lenders treat modular equally. So you have to really sit down with somebody to really understand that. So right now, the cost of modular is somewhere anywhere between $150 to $250 a square, excluding the land. It all really depends on what you're doing here. Lower carrying costs due to speed. The lending reality is that DSCR lenders increasingly are modular friendly on the way out, on the refinance. Foundation is permanent. Modular builder is experienced, and clear plans and specs provided up front. So some of the I'll talk about like the stick built. Some of the pros are maximum design flexibility, universally accepted by municipalities, easier financing, banks, private lenders, agencies, ideal for infill lots and custom zoning challenges. Now, some of the cons: it's a longer timeline. It's a 9-month to 10, 12-month project probably. Labor volatility and some subcontractor risk, potentially higher interest carrying costs, where the modular kind of moves in pretty quick, more exposed to weather delays. The cost is probably a little higher. You're probably anywhere 175 to 300 square foot, heavily market and labor dependent. The lending reality is banks like it, the construction of perm loans like it, large customer infill projects. I mean, listen, in certain markets where you can get these modular boxes to where they need to get to, I think it's great. Like, some more suburban rural markets where you can just plop the stuff down and put it on a cement pad. I think it's extremely interesting. And also some of these markets where it's extremely cold sometimes, where you can only build within a certain amount of time and crack ground in a certain amount of time. So, you know, some takeaways is that you need to think, what makes most sense for you from a cost benefit. The cost is going to be nearly the same. How much due diligence are you going to get into understanding whether the market wants modular builds, okay, versus stick built? That's really the bottom line. And you're only going to find that out at a zoning meeting or talking to people in the town. I think you're going to see more modular builds because of cost. Now, will lenders catch up with it on the asset-based lending side? I think so. I think because we're already refinancing a lot of modular. We're not a big fan of modular coming in because it's very hard to differentiate the draw schedule because it's all coming in boxes at the same time. But I think there's a way of doing it. And I'm doing some modular new construction financing, which I'm excited about. And hopefully I'll do a lot more in 26. I think the stick build is a little difficult for people to get their head wrapped around. I think the modular build makes a little more sense for people. So, as a real estate agent or real estate professional, if I was going to really dive into identifying contractors or developers to kind of put in your repertoire, I'd probably also do some homework on modular building outs and see if it complements your market. Bob, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to build and rent construction strategies. Bob?
Hey, good morning, Joe. Yeah, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Hey, so good morning, Joe. My name's Bob Chessick, president of Chessick Corporation. I help people set up LLCs and corporations. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I'm not here to give legal or tax advice. And I guess with today's topic, I also have to disclaim that while I used to practice in the world of civil engineering, I do not maintain a PE license. So making me do a throwback here to my engineering days here, Joe. So before I jump in, I know a lot of people know me for the corporations and LLCs, but my background in engineering was I did work for the state of Delaware with the Highway Department. Please don't hate me. Working on various transportation projects, and also worked for a couple of private companies after that, doing transportation design, construction management, site planning, and site design for residential and commercial, as well as industrial. So kind of as well as bridge engineering. So a lot of stuff in the engineering world before I got into my current work. And just thinking back to any type of construction, either whether you're building new or if you're going to renovate to turn something into a rental, a few things that I saw along the way in my career and things I've just been learning owning a house now. Very important to, number one, document everything that you do. And I mean, do photographs, write it down, make sure that you're keeping a running gallery on this, because when something inevitably goes wrong in the future, and let's be honest, it's going to go wrong in the future, you need to know exactly who did what and when. One of the situations that I remember dealing with is, especially when you're doing construction, you're going to have an architect. You may have architects involved. You may have to have engineers, which will probably be civil engineers as well as other specialized engineers that are doing any type of electrical work or utility work, depending on the situation and the municipal codes. You're going to be dealing with the zoning officers. So what Joe said is absolutely true. You need to go to a zoning meeting as an observer, especially if it's a new market, if for no other reason than to just watch how they work, because every little municipal and county fiefdom has their way of doing things, has their quirks, has their rules. You could wind up even in some wacky thing like God only knows what was on that property 100 years ago. There could be remediation even. So you've got to watch out for all of these things. Make sure that you're building to code, or you're going to find yourself in a mountain of debt really quickly with an unimproved property, and God help if you get fined. I used to be on that side of it as well. It was not a fun job to do. Shutdowns were never fun, but make sure you're documenting everything. Watch, and also when you're getting contractors involved, don't be afraid to ask for references. Ask them what other projects they've done in the past year or two. Drive by, take a look at it. If you see the homeowner out there, just say hello from the sidewalk. See if they'll answer a couple questions. See if they'll give you references or recommendations. I know in the small town near my mom's house, if I need work done, and I know this sounds silly, but shall we say the Chamber of Commerce might as well be the bar a mile down the road. Everyone you need to find is probably going to be there. Will know whoever's going to be there. So talk to people, get recommendations, find out how work's done. I'm going to be doing a lot of that when I have to put a new roof on my mom's house later this year. So that kind of stuff. The bottom line being, and like I said, I saw everything as an engineer, and a lot of things you never want to see, but it's so important. You document everything, you vet your contractors, you know exactly what's going on. And please, for the love of God, you can lie to yourself all you want that you're trying to save money and you're going to try to do your own repairs or anything. But if you don't know what you're doing and you're just going to half-ass it because you watched a couple of videos on YouTube, believe me, you're going to have problems down the road. You're going to make problems for yourself or your tenants down the road that you're just not going to want to have to deal with. And that old adage, there's never time to do it right, there's always time to do it over. Well, the do-over tends to be significantly more expensive than if you just did it right the first time. So watch your numbers, vet your contractors, and pay attention to the local rules. Because just because you're allowed to do it 5 miles up the road in the next town doesn't mean you can do it there. Again, nothing I said was intended as legal, financial, or engineering advice. Joe, back to you.
Bob, thank you as always. Bob and I have been colleagues and friends, I think now, 16 years? In the 16th year?
16 years almost to the day, Joe.
Look at that.
It's January 2010. I don't remember the exact date. It was January 2010 when we met at that event. I think it was sometime, if it wasn't today, it was very close to, it probably would have been this week.
Yep. Wow, it's a long time, man. I still don't have hair on my head, so it's kind of amazing. You met me bald, I'm still bald, so nothing's really changed.
Next time you see me, you'll realize I'm starting to catch up to that.
Oh, excellent. Hey, anytime you want to come to my barber, let me know.
Sounds like a plan.
So, hey, Bob, what's your thoughts on new build in your market? Because your market's is that suburban rural market like everywhere else in the country. I mean, are you seeing like new construction and like are they selling? Are they holding? Are they renting? Are you seeing anything changing there in your market a little bit?
Which market are you talking about? Because
Delaware is completely Delaware is like this hidden little gem for the time being till the taxes catch up, right? But I think let's do a nice comparative because you got Delaware is a very interesting market. It's only 3 counties. You got the Shore Point, you got the Rural Point in Kent, and then you got basically Wilmington, which is the Newcastle County. So you're seeing a ton of new construction in Delaware down toward the Shore Point's 20 minutes out. The rural area, I mean, there's nothing in your way to build anything down there. You know what I mean? But
predominantly agriculture.
Yeah, and then it's chickens, capital, or what was the 3 C's of Delaware?
Oh, yeah. Delaware makes its money off of chickens, crabs, corporations, and chemicals.
There you go. That's it. DuPont. Yep. So, what difference do you see between Delaware and Scranton market on the new construction space right now? Are you seeing vast differences? Like, are you seeing new construction in both, and what do you see different?
Massive difference between the two markets, and just a rapid breakdown of them. Delaware being effectively midway between New York City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, and having the lowest taxes in the Mid-Atlantic, lowest property taxes in the Mid-Atlantic corridor, and no sales tax, very low income tax relative to its neighbors, as long as our new governor doesn't get his way. We, you see, Delaware has been on a rapid building pace. I moved there in 2002, and one example, and Joe, I know you're familiar with this place, Middletown.
Yeah.
When I moved there in 2002, you would, if you're going to Middletown, the Route 1 expressway, it wasn't even finished yet to the beach. That wouldn't even finish. I was actually working on that project for DelDOT to build on the last 8 miles south of Middletown down to Smyrna. So the highway ended and merged into 13 and then disconnected later. But when you went down there, if you got off at the Odessa Middletown exit and you were going to Middletown, you would make a right onto Route 299, which was a 2-lane, 55-mile-an-hour road, 3 miles up to this like 4-block by 4-block tiny town with a couple of truck stops on the west side of it. And now Middletown comes the town, because in Delaware the municipalities are allowed to annex the unincorporated county lands around it. Middletown, I think, now touches Route 1 3 miles to the east of where it used to. And you've probably only seen it as that shopping center suburbia hell that's been built out there, which is what it's become. But what's more interesting about the Middletown area, that's the town itself. But then you look at the zip code for Middletown, which expands about it takes up almost about a third, probably about half, a third to half of southern Newcastle County. And there are like Wise Markets, which anyone from Pennsylvania will be familiar with, just opened a store because there was a supermarket desert. There was no supermarkets between Middletown and Bear. So Wise closed the gap by 7 miles in each direction, right around the development, the baby. The construction there is really rapid. Now, jump to the Scranton market. Are you seeing anything like that up there? No, not even close. You'll see new houses go up around here and there, but you're not seeing the widespread development. The Scranton market is just geographically far more isolated, and the geography of it being wedged in the valley has a lot to do with it. In fact, I think something like a third of Scranton's actual land is state game lands where you can go hunting. There's no development in it whatsoever, and that would be the part that would be over the top of Montage Mountain Ski Resort, going back down the other side to the Springbrook Reservoir. That's just all state land. So that's actually technically the city of Scranton, 10 miles away from downtown, but you have to walk through the woods to even see the city line.
I think everybody has to deal.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I think everybody has to deal with that type of environment in a lot of these Midwest and Sunbelt markets as well. Like 10 miles out of any of these cities, you're in the middle of woods. So, but very interesting to watch because we obviously have a housing shortage in certain capacities, and how we can make this up quicker is, I feel, modular build versus stick build. But I think you would agree, Bob. I mean, how important is it for a real estate investor to attend zoning meetings? How important do you think?
It's critical. And this is, by the way, another good comparison we can make between the two areas. If you're building in Delaware, there are no townships like there are in the other northeastern states. So if you're outside of you only have to deal with the municipality or the county if you're in an unincorporated area. So you can go to a Newcastle County zoning board meeting and learn pretty much anything for what would make up the northern third of the state, absent, like Wilmington, Middletown proper, and the little towns. However, go up to any place in Pennsylvania, and especially in the Scranton area, most of the development happening in and around Scranton is happening in the adjacent boroughs and townships. So just because, in fact, there's a lot of contractors that will not work within the city of Scranton because of the licensing and taxes there. But if you're looking for something, say up in the Clark Summit area, which is the northern suburbs on the other side of Bell Mountain, you're still going to have my grandfather had a property where his house is in Clark Summit, but if you go out the side door, take 10 steps, you're now in Clark's Green. The zoning laws are totally different. There's no marker there. It's just one side of the yard versus the other. So you're in the Abingtons, you've got Clark Summit, Clark's Green, South Abington Township, Waverly, And Waverly's a historic district, so their zoning laws are totally different.
Yeah.
North Abington's rural. Then you have Dalton, which is a different school district, different tax rules, and then Glenburn in between. So like all these little townships. But if you just like you could drive through all of them in a straight line in 7 minutes. So you've got to watch where you're building and check those municipal borders, especially in the Northeast and the Midwest. Those municipal borders and zoning boards will cream at you if you make the wrong assumptions about where you are.
Thank you, Bob. As always, great insight. And I'm going to kind of do a little follow through with the conversation I'm with Bob from a general perspective. How important is it for real estate investors or real estate professionals to attend zoning meetings? Short answer, zoning meetings are not optional. They are a profit protection and risk management tool, especially when it comes to build to rent, infill, and density driven projects. Why zoning meetings matter? Through the investor lens or the real estate professional lens, zoning and paperwork, it's a political capital. Zoning approvals are decided by planning commissions, zoning hearing boards, city councils, community advisory groups. Deals don't die because of numbers, they die because of politics. If you're absent, neighbors define the narrative, opposition fills the vacuum, boards default to no to avoid backlash. Early intelligence equals deal insurance. By attending meetings before you submit, you learn what the board actually cares about. You spot unwritten rules, parking, height, traffic, schools. You hear which developers are being resisted or welcomed. The intelligence directly affects unit count, density approvals, parking ratios, variances required, and timeline risk. Community buy-in protects values. Most opposition is emotional, not technical. Traffic, noise, neighborhood character, rentals versus ownership fear. When investors show up, you humanize the project. You position yourself as a long-term stakeholder. You reduce the resistance. Zoning meetings equal risk mitigation, fewer surprise conditions, lower legal costs, faster approvals, better lender confidence, stronger resale refinance narratives. Lender and capital partners are watching private lenders, DSCR lenders, and equity partners care deeply about zoning clarity, entitlement risk, community opposition. And an investor who can say, we've attended planned meetings, engaged neighbors, and pre-aligned with zoning staff is viewed as a lower risk capital. The strategic investor mindset is, in reality, is high performing investors attend even when not required. Bring concept drawings, traffic parking logic, noise and construction mitigation plans. The sophisticated move is have your, meeting with the attorneys there and the planners, knowing what makes sense. When zoning attendance is not negotiable, density increases, variances, or special exceptions, BTR developments, multifamily and SFR zones, height or parking reductions. Bottom line, zoning meetings are not administrative, they are strategic. For real estate investors and agents, zoning meetings equal risk reduction. Community presence equals approval velocity. Political awareness equals capital preservation. The investor or the real estate professional who wins in 26 aren't just better than underwriters, they're better operators inside local power structures. Melissa, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to build to rent construction strategies. I can't hear you. You sound like you're far, far away. Come closer. I hear you, but it's like you're like in a cave somewhere, far, far away. I gave you such a layup there.
Is that
There you go.
put my mic near me? All right. Working off my laptop instead of my phone. Because these older eyes, I can only do so much on my iPhone. So I put Club Deck. I figured out how to put it back on my laptop. So, hey, Melissa King, I am with Busy Bee Virtual Solutions, and that is one of the things I do. I figure out solutions for your back office, your bookkeeping. I am realty savvy and also notary ready. And I absolutely love this topic, Joe, because my husband and I are in a new lower income area. We did move rural after selling our home, and we did build brand new after buying our property here in the White Lake area. And I gotta say, I am so glad we interviewed some builders at a local home building show before we did this. And anybody here can do this. Go to the remodeling shows, interview these GCs, find out where they've worked, what software programs they are using. Our builder used Builder's Trend. I know it's more of an expensive one, but I do have somebody in my local RIA who does remodel, and he went from Flipper Force to Builder's Trend to up his game. I can't say enough that you need something like that to keep people under control because change orders are expensive. Change orders are expensive. Change orders are expensive.
Are they expensive?
Yes. And wants to keep track of them? Absolutely nobody. Not even your data entry person. Look, I've done that. I did that over 20 years ago. It's insane. And if you have a software program that helps you, that's just going to put you ahead of the game. And let me also say, I looked up while I was listening here, I'm going to be dragging my husband to a local township board meeting.
There you go.
This week. And he also set up his own meeting for his own business to do his educational program in pesticide certification here for the state of Michigan. We are going to be in a local area there, and we've already met somebody he has a connection with. So we are super excited for 2026, not only for our own personal business, but also for our community and moving forward, because we really do want to get into this real estate investing game because it's a long play, and that's where we're at right now. Thanks, Joe.
And Melissa, thank you for the phone call and due diligence on our discussion this past week as well.
For certain groups, because I completely agree with what you said and what that person said, because I'm originally from Lansing, Michigan, and my husband and we've moved out of state for 5 years. We lived in Colorado. We moved back to West Michigan. So we understand what it is to move around a little bit and start all over. It's not impossible. You can do it, but you do have to pay attention.
Yeah. So I appreciate that, Melissa, a lot because, listen, in anything, you got to do your due diligence. And that's what I did, and I appreciate that because if you don't do diligence on anything you're doing, whether it's an event, attendance, or working with somebody, I'm looking people up just to make sure that I know who I'm working with. If I can't find you on LinkedIn, I really have an issue. You know what I mean? So like these are things that you need to be you got to be a brand in this business. And I appreciate that so much this week, Melissa. It was really helpful.
And that advice you just gave, I normally do more due diligence, and I got bit by that last year by not doing my proper due diligence. But that is not a conversation for the last 2 minutes here. But we should talk about it sometime.
That we should we'll make that doing due diligence as a real estate investor. That's I filled my last spot in February. You see now.
I mean, due diligence in life is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Melissa, thank you. My pleasure. So some final thoughts to our discussion today. Concise, high impact strategic wrap up for investors thinking about build to rent, new construction 26 is blending macro, capital markets, operations, and value creation. Okay. The difference between in pricing power, product quality, resident experience, community amenity ecosystem equals premium rents and lower turnover. Okay. Location first, good underwriting, and I have underwriting software as well. Understanding what the rental market capacity is in the market. What is the appetite? What's your rates going to look like on a long-term hold on it as well? Demand is structural, not cyclical. So you got to, rentership continues to grow, but driven by affordability constraints and lifestyle preferences shifts and limited supply of quality housing. So millennials entering peak household formation years with Gen Z enters the workforce. So this creates a long-term floor under rental demand that favors professionally built managed communities. You got to just differentiate whether you want to go modular or stick built. So these are a lot of things to think about from build to rent and new construction. Do you want to get into it? Do you want to represent developers as well? How do you start finding those developers to work with? It's the zoning meetings. It's the board meetings. It's a little political. I know it's tough, but you have to substitute an event that you might get accustomed to going to and try something different. What's the worst thing that happens? You meet somebody new, right? So for the real estate agents that are listening in, get to your neighborhood zoning meetings, get to your community zoning meetings, your suburban zoning meetings, build that off-market presence through political zoning meetings. That's what I would 100% suggest. And I want to thank everybody for listening in. We're here every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. We are going to be doing some changes to the podcast with Clubhouse starting in March, but all through January and February, we're here every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, providing education, networking, and strategy. We're here to provide hopefully insight and direction. The moderators here have been just great this morning. These are not easy subjects to tackle right off the bat. When's the last time you've had a conversation with Melissa or Felix or Dave or Bob? Like, when's the last time you made that effort to reach out to them? Melissa made an effort to reach out to me, and I wanted to thank her. I wanted to openly thank her about that. And my quote this morning: the most important characteristics of a man or woman: resilience, scars over stories, in the trenches, relatable through mistakes, 1% better every day, ego management. Bottom line, a man or woman isn't defined by perfection. They are defined by persistence, humility, and the willingness to grow through pressure. Everybody have a great week. Take care of yourself. Be blessed. Stay in touch. And I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. And thank you. Have a great day.